The first thing I want to show you is the debris that's still at this home after that standoff. You can see the screen doors actually lying in the front yard tonight. Neighbors tell me Victor Alexander lived here with his mom, Doris, who police found dead last night. We've done a couple of, high-profile stories that obviously involve kids that were at building bridges, like July, and there was one in September. For you, what does that mean?
Every time I see a student that may have been through us, that definitely make me think.
One of the biggest concerns here on Tybee Island is already here. It's this wind.
We had responded to that home in the last several weeks.
For a similar situation, or?
It was some type of domestic situation, but I don't have any level of detail relative to that.
Effingham County Public Works crews now working on the hardest hit roads to lay them with sand so that drivers like this one can actually get down the roads, and then they're just piling this crispy, muddy ash on the side of the road.
WTOC's Amanda LaBrot has been following this investigation from the very beginning. Amanda, this new information explains why he's no longer working for the university.
Yeah, pages of reports from the Board of Regents investigation into former police chief James Barnwell's alleged misconduct all conclude there is reason to believe he violated Savannah State University's sexual harassment policy. The three officers say their chief made inappropriate comments and even committed non-consensual sexual acts. Barnwell denies all of it. New findings from a Georgia Board of Regents investigation reveal what three subordinate officers say they experienced while working under then Savannah State University Police Chief James Barnwell.
There were touching, there were suggestive sexual encounters.
Often happening while in uniform or at the police department on campus. Attorney Pierre Eiffel represents one of the officers who, according to reports written by the Board of Regents investigator, says Barnwell made comments about the complainant's appearance, suggestively looked at the complainant, and otherwise expressed sexual interest in the complainant, made propositions to perform sexual acts, retaliated against the complainant because she did not wish to pursue an intimate relationship.
We understood that these allegations were going on, but to have an investigator to substantiate a lot of the claims that at least my client was making, it was very profound.
A second officer accusing Barnwell of talking to her about non-work matters of a sexual nature, saying he made propositions to establish a social or otherwise intimate relationship and touched her buttocks, upper leg, and lower leg on various occasions. And a third officer alleged that on 2 consecutive nights the respondent entered her sleeping area and performed a sexual act on her without her consent while sleeping at the police department during Hurricane Matthew.
There was a culture over there at Savannah State to not say anything when others saw the egregious acts of Chief Barnwell and the inability of the university to protect its employees.
Barnwell's attorney didn't return a request for comment today, but his comments and Barnwell's affidavit are included in the investigators' reports. In them, Barnwell says, "I deny any allegations of sexual harassment, inappropriate behavior, comments, retaliation, bullying, or threats relating to misconduct in the performance of my duties. It is evident this is a clear form of retaliation and character assassination, and that he spent 32 years in the police department, and it does not make sense that in a few months of working at Savannah State University that he would, quote, lose his mind."
For him to blatantly deny these allegations and not take full responsibility for them just shows what type of character he has. And I'm wondering if this type of activity was taking place when he was with Savannah Metro also.
The 2 case files we have on Barnwell from his time at Metro aren't sexually based complaints, and the department didn't take any disciplinary action. Eiffel says right now he's waiting on his right to sue letter from the EEOC. Then he plans to file a civil suit against Barnwell, the university, and the Board of Regents.
We're looking to take this to trial. I think the public needs to know that Chief Barnwell can't be trusted. The public needs to know that Savannah State has an inability to protect its employees and the general public from sexual predators.
He says his client is also planning to pursue criminal charges against Barnwell. The standard for evidence in the Board of Regents investigation isn't as strict as it would be in a criminal case, for example. The board investigator just needed to decide if it was more likely than not Barnwell's conduct violated the university's sexual harassment policy. She did in all 3 cases, but didn't think there was enough evidence to support their claims Barnwell retaliated against them. Again, we reached out to Barnwell's attorney to weigh in, and he did not return our call. Tire marks now cut through the middle of Mill Pond Road in Effingham County. It's one of dozens of ash roads damaged by last week's winter weather. Now, Savannah River keepers want to find out what's in it and if those crumbles could end up hurting you. Amanda Rutland's front door is just steps from this mess.
My car was so thick with the stuff that my son could write on the back windshield. You have to be super careful even getting out of your vehicle because it gets all over your clothes.
Savannah River keepers out on her street taking pictures today with concerns about the ash beyond the mess it creates.
Our concern is their ash roads. What kind of ash is that? We were told it came from Georgia Pacific, but we're not sure what exactly that means.
And neither does Rutland.
We have often wondered if there are any environmental effects because it does get quite disgusting at times, as you can see.
So Savannah River keepers are testing it to find out.
When you hear ash roads, it can mean things like coal ash, which do contain large amounts of heavy metals and carcinogens. Arsenic, chromium, there's a whole slew of others that can show up.
Especially concerning for both the proximity to water.
There's a creek that runs right behind this property and it goes down the length of this road. So there is, it definitely could go, whatever's in there could go in our water supply.
These roads are in our watershed. We're maybe a quarter of a mile from the Savannah River right now, and we're upriver of water intakes for thousands of people.
Coal ash isn't just a concern if it gets into waterways. The Savannah Riverkeeper executive director saw me touching it with my bare hands yesterday, and her first reaction?
She shouldn't have done that. You really don't want to handle this stuff barehanded if it is coal ash.
So with this stuff stuck to shoes, paws, and cars, Rutland says not knowing what's in it is just another thing to worry about. Savannah River keepers are scheduled to be back in Effingham County tomorrow to actually test the ash to figure out what's in it. Traffic crashes, traffic fatalities, and auto insurance premium rates are increasing faster in Georgia than in other states across the country. Lawmakers and law enforcement say it's because of these, and now they're hoping a bill passes to get these cell phones out of your hands while you're driving. It only takes a walk upstairs inside Craig and Kathy Clark's home to see loss in a physical form. Their daughter's bedroom is filled with photos and accolades, but it stays empty. Emily Clark is one of 5 Georgia Southern nursing students killed in a car accident by a distracted driver in April 2015.
It's trying to find the new normal for our family. Our family dynamics completely changed, and it's hard. Everything about it's hard.
They say Emily was compassionate and loved helping people. That's why nursing was a perfect fit. Now they're hoping to help others by advocating for a new bill aiming to reduce distracted driving.
You know, we want to honor Emily the best we can, and to honor her legacy and her memory. And this is a way to do it, to try to help others and, try to make our roads safer.
I would call this the DUI issue of our generation. Distracted driving is the DUI issue of our generation, and we have got to stop it.
So Representative John Carson is proposing a hands-free driving law for Georgia. Under it, cell phones must be mounted on a passenger seat anywhere but your hands.
You can use it for dialing a phone number, ending a call, and you can use your phone for GPS navigation. But other than that, hands-free.
Skyrocketing car insurance premiums, not deaths, drove Carson's interest in changing the law initially. In 2016, Georgia's insurance premium rates increased by about 12%. That's more than double the national average increase of just under 6%.
People that text and drive, they don't admit to texting and driving. That's the issue. And when you can't identify the cause of a particular crash, it just is spread over the entire insurance pool.
So it's something that impacts everybody, whether you're the one texting or you're the one who has to pay your car insurance.
Absolutely.
Governor's Office of Highway Safety Director Harris Blackwood says it's a step in the right direction to improve the law that's been on the books since 2010 and make it more enforceable.
An officer can look without question. If he sees the phone in somebody's hand, they're getting a ticket. That's it. Now there's a question mark about that.
Blackwood also says it would clear up the common misconception that the current law only prohibits texting, not internet data usage, like social media.
We've had people actually get out of cars and say, well, I wasn't texting, I was on Facebook. No.
The bottom line for Blackwood, saving lives.
We're killing people at the rate of 1 every 6 hours. One person in this state will die every 6 hours because of traffic crashes.
That's why the Clarks got involved too. They say they're not sure what truck driver John Wayne Johnson was doing when he crashed into their daughter's car, but they do know he was distracted enough to never slow down, never notice he crashed into her until after it happened.
He said he didn't realize that he'd even hit them. He thought it was a bump in the road, so and he hit her, and went over the top of her vehicle.
For you to hear that someone can be that distracted while operating a vehicle, is that just sort of an obvious, hello, we need to do something to change this law?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, that's what, when they told us about this, that this was coming up, we told them definitely we need to be part of it. We'll do whatever we can to help.
So they started calling, emailing, and meeting with lawmakers and testifying in committee meetings, sharing their story and their pain publicly. I don't know if it will ever get easy to be able to talk about that, but you guys are sharing that story because you think it can help.
We don't want anybody else to have to sit here when it's something that can be so easily prevented. And, until we, get people to put their phones down and pay attention when they drive, we're going to continue to see these kind of fatalities and accidents happen.
Carson's current version of the bill increases the fine and implements a new staggered points system, increasing the number levied against your license with each offense. People know that it's dangerous, but they don't seem to stop doing it. What do you think it's going to take for people to actually stop texting and driving?
I think what it really is going to take is culture change. And I think that starts with some stronger laws for enforcement.
I think it's the continued awareness. It's stiffening the penalties around distracted driving, much like you have with DUI. It's the same thing.
By being two voices working to bring that awareness, Craig and Kathy hope their daughter lives on in lives saved. What would it mean to you to have this law passed?
That our daughter didn't die in vain. Maybe somebody else won't get that call.
At the end of the day, if passing this legislation or helping push this through saves one life, it's worth every minute we spend doing it.
I asked Representative Carson if he thought the bill was going to pass this session, and he says there's a lot of support for the general idea. Now it's just drilling down those specifics and making sure that it's something everyone can agree on. At the state capitol, Amanda LaBrot, WTOC News.
Amanda LaBrot, the only reporter in the courtroom when the district attorney delivered those findings to the chief judge, and now she's breaking down the details of what they decided.
The key takeaways from this decision: 23 grand jurors say the shooting is justified and no officers will be indicted, and the U.S. Department of Justice opened a civil rights investigation into the case. The grand jury findings walk us through what happened before Ricky Boyd was shot and killed. They say a U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force tried to serve Boyd a murder warrant, and he came out of his Marion Circle home with his hands in his pocket area. They say when Ricky Boyd was ordered to raise his hands above his head, initially he refused, and a short time later he quickly removed his hands from his pocket area holding a BB gun and assumed a shooter's two-handed stance while pointing the BB gun in the direction of marshals. The report says Boyd pointed the BB gun toward 5 officers, including Sergeant Sean Wilson, the Savannah police officer hurt in the shooting. 8 officers fired at Boyd, and the grand jurors say the testimony of the 8 law enforcement officers who fired their weapons at Ricky Boyd was corroborated by other law enforcement officers at the scene who did not fire their weapons at Boyd. The findings say a deputy U.S. Marshal was shooting toward Boyd, bullets ricocheted off the house and hit Sergeant Wilson. Therefore, they say it is the opinion of the grand jury that the shooting of Ricky Boyd was justified as being reasonably necessary to prevent Ricky Boyd's perceived imminent use of unlawful, deadly force against law enforcement officers. They go on to say Boyd was likely aware that when he pointed the BB pistol at armed law enforcement officers, that they would shoot and likely kill him. Jurors also learned the U.S. Department of Justice opened a federal civil rights investigation last week. The grand jury documents say that federal investigation may delay the release of the full GBI file and the juror transcripts, so the 23 members said they wanted these findings as detailed as possible to give the public confidence in the decision. Amanda LaBrot, WTOC News.